Alexis, aka the Sloth Reader, and I'm here today to do my December favorites video. Starting off with the movies I watched in the month of December, the first one I saw was Murder on the Orient Express, which is obviously an adaptation of an Agatha Christie book of the same name. Overall, I thought this was a really good adaptation of Agatha Christie's novel. I thought that the visuals in the movie were really stunning. I loved the chosen cast, Johnny Depp aside, but I really think that the people that they cast to play the roles did a really good job in them. It was a really star-studded cast. I think the movie did a very good job of dealing with kind of the one flaw of the book, and that's you have a 15-person cast, basically. You have 15 people that you have to know. And you have to know them. You have to know their stories, their professions, their names, and everything like that. And I think the movie did a really good job of handling that, whereas sometimes in the book it gets a little confusing who is who when they're just referred to by name. So the movie does a really good job of handling that. I think because it's visual and because you're literally like, oh, well, Daisy Ridley's playing this character, Leslie Odom Jr. is going to play this character, it's much easier to know which characters are which. So I think the movie did a really good job. Like, again, I would say that's like the fatal flaw of that book, is that the character list gets a little confusing, but I think the movie handled that really well, so I do have to give my props to the movie. I thought that some of the added scenes that they put in to make it more thrilling, I guess, I don't know, I don't feel like they really added anything to the story. Again, I thought it was a really beautiful looking movie, but to get to the obvious star of the show, the only other movie I saw in December was, of course, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which obviously is episode 8 in the Star Wars series. I'm gonna try not to be spoilery, but I do have a lot of thoughts. I will say that I didn't love it as much as other people did. I've heard people say that this is their favorite Star Wars movie and it's the best one and blah blah, and I would not agree. Now, on the other side of that, I've heard people complain that it's too Disney, not enough Star Wars, and that one I also wouldn't agree with. For me, it was more than okay, but it wasn't perfect. I will start off by saying that without a doubt, I think this is the most visually stunning Star Wars movie we've ever gotten. There were scenes in this movie that gave me literal chills with just how gorgeous they looked. I mean, if you've seen the commercials, you've seen the Salt Planet scenes with like the red and the white, like it's gorgeous. It is a beautiful looking film. And I also will say, on a positive note, I really liked how it was edited. I know some people had some pacing issues with the movie, which I will get to in a minute, but the way that the movie was edited kind of plays up this like parallel editing where it kind of goes from kind of one storyline to another and it alternates those bits. And I liked that. I liked how it moved the tension of the story. You know, it was never like high tension, low tension. I think the whole movie as a whole was kind of low tension until the end. So like, I can't knock it there. But I liked the like dual perspective story. With that being said, there are kind of 3 storylines that are happening in this movie, and I really don't think one of them was necessary. I felt like one of the little side stories that happens in this didn't add anything to the plot. It didn't do anything for the characters. I think the characters could have been better served in another portion of the story. I don't feel like, I mean, I literally felt like that was probably 45 minutes of the movie that could have been taken out. That honestly, in the end, served pretty much no purpose. So that is a complaint I have. Another complaint I have is that while I liked the characters, and I don't personally have an issue with the character developments per se, I think a lot of them make sense when you really think about them. There were a couple of, I'll just say, relationship stuff that I didn't like. I again don't think it served a higher purpose in the story. And that's without spoiling. That's what I'll say. I cried like 9 times. Pretty much every time Carrie Fisher was talking, I cried. I really loved seeing Mark Hamill back as Luke. And I personally really liked the Luke storyline in the movie. I know a lot of people had criticisms with it, but I actually personally really enjoyed it. I really liked seeing the places, the like experimental places they took his character. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, those are like my non-spoilery feelings about it without like trying to spoil too much. I thought it was good. There were definitely parts of the movie where I was really excited. There were parts of the movie that gave me the same feeling that I had when I was watching Star Wars as a kid. But like also on a critical level, there were a lot of things that I felt were either wasted opportunity, wasted time, or just didn't serve the overall story, if that makes sense. So those are my thoughts on Star Wars. I do have one TV show I want to mention. It was the only TV show I kind of started in December, and I only made it a few episodes in, but that was Future Man, which is a Hulu original show that stars Josh Hutcherson, where he is basically like a loser pretty much. He's like a gamer. It's the only thing he's good at. He's a janitor. He lives with his parents. I mean, he literally has made like nothing of his life, but he's one of the best gamers at this game. That is like impossible, no one's ever beat it, and he's pretty good at it. The show starts with he actually kind of gets frustrated with his life and the way his life has gone, and so he decides to really put his energy into this game. And he ends up actually beating it. He becomes the first person ever to beat it. In his excitement of that, while he is kind of celebrating his victory, 2 time travelers appear before him and basically explain that the game that he's been playing is actually like a military recruitment simulation sent back in the past to like figure out which person was going to be best suited to save the future. And Josh Hutcherson, being the character who has beaten this game, is selected as that person, except for the fact that he's literally unfit in every possible way. And so the whole show is basically about Josh Hutcherson and these 2 people, time travelers from the future, teaming up to save the future. And it's hilarious because there's time traveling and there are these rough and tough, like, warrior time travelers who have no concept of like our modern era, and so Josh Hutcherson is like having to intercept them before they like ruin things horribly, and it's really funny. A lot of the jokes are pretty raunchy. There's a lot of video game humor. Like I said, I only watched the first couple of episodes, but I really liked what I've seen. It definitely made me laugh several times, especially like the time travelers not understanding how to behave in our time era is hilarious. I definitely would recommend it if you don't mind more adult raunchy humor, because that's definitely the type of humor involved. I do have 2 musical things that I want to mention. The first is, obviously any of you who know me are not going to be surprised by this, is that the Decemberists, which you guys know is my favorite band, teamed up with Lin-Manuel Miranda to do one of the cut songs from the Hamilton musical, which was the Benjamin Franklin song. Basically, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote a song for Benjamin Franklin, but he never ended up using it in Hamilton because Ben Franklin's not in Hamilton. But he sent these song lyrics to Colin Malloy, who is the lead singer of the Decemberists, and was like, hey, when I wrote this song, I kind of imagined you guys singing it. And so Colin Malloy was like, cool, we'll do it. And they did. And it is the collab that I've been like waiting for. Ever since I knew that Lin-Manuel Miranda and the Decemberists were fans of each other, I was just like waiting for the day where we're gonna get a sweet collab. And it came in the form of the Benjamin Franklin song. And it's hilarious. It's perfectly the Decemberists, and Colin Malloy's voice just fits the song so well. And it's everything I wanted it to be, and I've been listening to it constantly since it came out, so of course I wanted to make sure you guys knew about it. The next one I'm going to mention is going to be one that I'm very late on the game on, and that is that I finally sat down and listened to the soundtrack for Dear Evan Hansen, which if you guys don't know is a musical this past year that was very well beloved. It got nominated for a bunch of stuff at the Tonys, and people just became obsessed with it. And I just never had the time to sit down and really get into it, because like when I get into a musical, I listen to the soundtrack and then I read a scene-by-scene description of the entire play, and then I read the scene-by-scene description while listening to the music. And kind of in between these stages, I'm doing background on like the musical and like its conception and like the lyrics and stuff like that. So like it's a process when I decide to get into a musical, and I just never had the chance to listen to Dear Evan Hansen. But yeah, I mean, I definitely can see why as a musical it touched a lot of people, and a lot of people became very, very emotionally attached to it. There are definitely a lot of songs that are very emotionally charged. I think Ben Platt, who was the original Evan Hansen character in the original cast, he does a phenomenal job playing the character. I think this is a great outing for him in the play. I think a lot of the lyrics to the songs are really gorgeous, and again, like, I definitely see why people really fell in love with this musical, because I think it's really good. I think the music for it is really, really good. A lot of the music is more ballads, which I personally really like. There's only like 1 or 2, 3 songs that I can think of that are more up-tempo, which personally fits my style because I prefer ballads. So that was one of the things I think that really drew me to it, because it is kind of a slower musical in terms of the songs being more ballady. The last 2 things I'm gonna mention were 2 presents I got for Christmas. I didn't do like a Christmas haul, mostly because all of the stuff I got for Christmas I knew was gonna come up in a video some other place. Like, I mostly got Funko Pops for Christmas, and like I'm gonna do an updated Funko Pop tour video in a couple of weeks, so I was like, well, I'm not gonna mention them twice in 1 month, that's redundant. And like, I only got 1 book for Christmas, which I'll just show in my January book haul. So I didn't do like a Christmas thing, but there are 2 gifts that I got for Christmas that I do want to share. The first is the one that's in the thumbnail, and that is this All Might print that my best friend in the entire world, Suzanne, bought me. And it's from an artist that I follow on Tumblr and Instagram that I really like. I will leave their shop down below in case you're interested in checking out any of their other art. But I really love this artist's stuff, and this is the character of All Might. I actually have the Funko Pop back here. From Boku no Hero Academia, which you guys have heard me talk about before. But it's just this print of All Might, and it just says, "You can do it." And it's the most inspirational thing, and like, she knows how much I love All Might and how much I view All Might as a symbol of inspiration, and so she said that she saw this and she just had to get it for me for Christmas. So thank you so much, Suzanne, for my Christmas present. And the other thing I'm mentioning, I will leave the shop to down below in case you're interested. Some of you have already seen it because I showed it off on Instagram in my Insta stories, and that is that I got a book sleeve for Christmas, and this one is from In Lumos Libertas, which is an Etsy shop. Again, I will link it down below. But I really wanted one of these because I carry my books in my backpack to and from work every day, and so especially paperbacks books tend to get a little dinged up in my backpack, so I wanted a book sleeve to protect them, obviously. And so I scoured Etsy because I knew I wanted to ask my parents to get me one, and I found this one and I love it. It very much reminds me of The Diviners by Libba Bray, which was one of my favorite books of last year, because it does have that like occult, creepy, kind of a macabre vibe, which is A, something I like anyway, and B, like I said, it reminds me of The Diviners. And so this one is padded on the inside with like a felt material, and it is pretty big. Right now at the moment I'm holding the exclusive hardback edition of Ruin and Rising, so if that gives you an idea of like how big it is. So this is the hardback edition of The Ref and the Dama Reine Adier. This is much bigger than this particular book is. Like, you can tell it's really easy to get in and out. There's obviously a little bit of room for extra stuff. Sometimes I'll put my Kindle in there too. Sometimes I put papers and stuff. But so yeah, so I finally got me a book sleeve that I really like. And yeah, obviously I'm not sponsored. My parents paid actual money to buy me this for Christmas. Alrighty guys, so those are all of my favorite things of December, or just in general, like the things in December. I would absolutely love to know what was your favorite movie you saw this year, and I'll see you guys soon with another video.